Hello, BookTube. Welcome back to AusBooks, where I'm just talking about random Australian books that I just own randomly. And we're kind of moving on in a chronological order. Why not? We've talked about Captain Cook, of course, and his travels. We've talked about Arthur Phillip, and now we probably have the most famous for the actual works themselves, rather than just the figure being famous, and that is the one, the only Watkins Tench. This is his account of, because there's two books here that he's known for. The first one being a narrative of the expedition to Botany Bay, and then the second book is a complete account of the settlement at Port Jackson. And this is a lovely edition. I'm kind of shocked Australian classics when they have pretty editions, because that never happens. But here it is here. It's got a bit of a massive tear on the side. But I still love it. It's really pretty. And yeah, Watkins Tench. What do you want me to say? Let's talk about who he is first. He was a captain lieutenant on the First Fleet. He volunteered to. But anyway, these two accounts are documents of course, the traveling to Australia and then what it was like in the early days. And Watkins is very different compared to a lot of the other accounts we have of the First Fleet, because Watkins was kind of literary actually. He was, even back in his day in the 1700s, considered to be a good writer. And this isn't technically journals. It's weird because Watkins is very much writing this like a general, like a first-hand account, rather than on this day I done this. Like, it's more literary than a lot of Arthur Phillip's journals, or William Bradley's, who we'll talk about soon, and all that. But Watkins is famous. This is probably the most famous early account of Australia you'll probably find, and it's there for a reason. Like, it's really good. And Phillip, oh my god, what am I saying? Yeah, Watkin has a really, really sharp eye for detail. In the first book, he talks about all the ports they stop at along the way. He talks a lot about the convicts actually, and it's really interesting because Watkins was considered to be a kind officer. He worked with convicts that had good behaviour, and when obviously they arrived in Australia, he helped the few convicts who knew how to farm and just general, practical skills. He worked with them to help set up the first colonies. Like, he was considered to be a good officer, and that's kind of sweet. I like that. And yeah, it's just pretty much Watkins recording his daily life. He very much was interested in the indigenous community around Botany Bay. And it shows you, even in the early days, Watkins was very much like, we are trying to make peace with them. Like, we don't know how, we don't know how to communicate with them, but we are trying. And it's just really interesting to see that. I find it really interesting. Again, daily activities talks a lot about convicts, and it's a really interesting account, to be honest. There's never a dry moment, where I feel like with Arthur Phillip and Cook, you do get those bit of dry moments. But Watkins, he knew what he was doing with this, because he left Australia in 1791 actually, and he went home to England and immediately published his two accounts. And I think this is the earliest first-hand account of Australia that was literally published. Again, 1791. Like, the First Fleet only arrived in 1787, sorry. So that's really early on. And Watkins, kept on working and all that. But these two accounts are absolutely must-reads. I feel like if you're going to do any first hand accounts of, the early colonies, this is genuinely essential reading. You will find these his two works in bind-ups too. You'll get Watkins, the first 4 years or whatever, or his two accounts. They're normally published together because, again, they're so small. Pick them up if you see it and read them. There's a great introduction one with Tim Flannery, which is really good as well. And obviously LibriVox does an audiobook too, which is really good too. But what do you want me to say? It's one of those books where I'm like, it's iconic, it's remembered for a reason, and just really interesting, and it's really self-aware. Watkins was very much like, why are we doing this? Like, to the indigenous people, why? He was very challenging. But then again, I think he had such a strong moral sense of who he was. He wasn't like a William Bradley who very much soured on Indigenous people. Watkins was, I think, a very moral person. At least you could tell from his writings. And he's just a really good first-hand source to have, I feel like, when it comes to some of the other officers we have. And I don't know what to say. It's a recommend. Like, it's really good. I've talked about this book before on my channel. If you haven't read it, I feel like you should. It's not as dry as you'd imagine. Again, Watkins had that literary skill, and you won't be bored by this. I think so. I don't think you need to go into this knowing a lot. I think you'll be fine if you have an introduction or something. But yeah, Watkins, his two books about the first 4 years of Australia is an essential reading in my opinion. It is up there. It's like the American equivalent of like Common Sense or something like that. Just essential reading. Or Henry Adams diaries and all that. This is the Australian equivalent, and you'll have a blast. Very self-aware in a way that a lot of the diaries we're going to be talking about aren't really. But yeah, that's all I have to say. I know I'm going on, but it's Watkins Trench. Like, you know who he is. But anyway, I'll let you go. Let me know what you think of Watkins Trench. Have you read his two accounts? Go ahead and do it because they're really interesting. And yeah, thank you so much for watching BookTube, and I will see you next time.